Welcome back to the Art of Football 365. This is episode 66. And today we're going to be touching on the Super Bowl, kind of diving into some predictions and things we think that are going to happen in this game where everyone's going to be watching. All eyes on this game this coming weekend. Had a week off last week with the Pro Bowl, so now it's coming right back. Super Bowl time. I'm excited. I know these two guys are excited. Speaking of these two guys, you guys may wonder who these two guys are. It's not Gannon. Gannon's not with me. Carter's not with me. It's a new look tonight. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves. Cole, you can go ahead and start, and then Nick.
Alrighty. My name is Cole. I'm actually Gannon's cousin. Him and I go way back, obviously. I graduated from college last year. I played golf. I watch sports constantly. Huge Iowa Hawkeye fan for college, as the whole family is. I'm sure Gannon touched on that a little bit. And then also Chicago Bears fan. Run my team, even though we suck right now. I just watch sports 24/7. You know, I watch it every weekend. When it's football season, watch it during the week when it's basketball season. So I'm always tuned in to do something. So that's about it for me.
Yeah, I'm Nick. I graduated from Freeport High School about 2 years ago. I currently go to Western Illinois University. I'm majoring in sports broadcasting. Love sports. I'm a big Ohio State fan, big Cowboy fan. So shout out Bryce. You know, we got that in common. But I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Love to talk football. Love to talk basketball. You know, I love sports all the way around. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to hop on here with me. I know Gannon's got a baseball trip for those wondering where he's at. So good luck to Gannon this coming weekend. But we're going to do this thing with these two guys tonight, talk some Super Bowl. But before that, Gronk spike the subscribe button for us. Leave a like, leave a comment, and check out our two sponsors, Driftless Quality Wear and Bacher Auto Group. Before we dive into everything, I want to kind of give you guys a note as to where we've been the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks have been pretty rough on us as a podcast with the loss of a close family friend in Adam Holder. So our prayers and thoughts go out to the Holder family for everything that's going on. It's been a rough time for us, the grieving process, taking 2 weeks off. It's helped for sure, but it was definitely time to get back to this. I'm excited, eager to kind of sit down and have a great conversation tonight. On top of that, we also have a donation page kind of going. I've posted on all social medias for the Holder family. People have responded immensely to that. We appreciate that. We're around $1,800 now. So everyone who has donated, thank you very much. It's gonna get put to good use for the Holder family. So prayers and thoughts for the Holder family. All right, guys, it's time to dive into some Super Bowl talk. Los Angeles Rams, Cincinnati Bengals. What are the initial thoughts, guys? What are we thinking about this game?
I'm kind of leaning a little towards the Rams, mainly based on the experience that they have. You know, a lot of the Bengals top players, you know, Burrow, Chase, all young guys. I mean, great players, obviously, and they got a chance to shine here. But when you look at the Rams, you got their defense. They're all veterans for the most part. Offense, even guys like Matt Stafford, even though he's never been in this type of situation, he's a veteran in the league. He's been doing it for years. So I'm leaning, just for my straight up prediction. We can get into details later. I'm leaning Rams for sure, and they're at home, being in LA. So I think that gives them a little boost as well.
I see all that with the Rams. I mean, when you look at it on paper, I think that the Rams definitely have the edge, but you can make that case about teams that the Bengals have faced, you know, previously in the playoffs. But I'm leaning towards the Bengals just because of Joe Burrow. I can't bet against Joe Burrow right now. I can't go against him the way that he's playing. For me, and like you said, we'll dive into it a little bit deeper later, but I got to look at the Bengals simply because of the way that Joe Burrow's playing. I mean, the Rams defense, like you brought up, that's going to be a huge part in it, but we've seen some defenses put pressure, you know, put Joe Burrow in some unfamiliar positions, but each time, you know, he continues to really step it up to that next level. And every time that he's faced with some sort of adversity, you know, he always steps up. So no moment seems to be too big for Joe Burrow, and I got to lean with him in the Super Bowl.
I like it. I like both the takes right there. And I think the funny thing what you said, Nick, is adversity with Joe Burrow. And like coming off the injury, honestly, I don't think anyone in this entire NFL world who tunes into football necessarily would have said this team was going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I think they have the outlook and the opportunity. I think going into the season, you look at them, you're like, okay, this team could maybe be a playoff team, maybe. And I don't think anyone
Yeah,
expected that.
I agree there. I don't think even if Burrow never had the injury, I mean, are we really looking at the Bengals ever of looking at them and being like, hey, they're a possible Super Bowl team? I mean, it's just something that you haven't looked at in the past. And even with Burrow, you're like, he's gonna get pressured. They don't got an offensive line. They got a great receiving core, but they have no O line to give Burrow that
Mm,
time. But then here we are a year after his injury, and we're sitting in the Super Bowl because he's been able to overcome those adversities like the O line and stuff like that. So, and plus their defense has stepped up. A lot of free agent signings that they had, they're stepping up big time, and their defense is at worst middle of the pack. So they got some good things looking up for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. When you look at the Bengals coming into this season, specifically the draft, like the whole conversation was you have to be able to get Joe Burrow his protection.
hmm
And then they drafted Chase and it switched. He's like, okay, they had this combination in college. They were so good together that it just made sense to go after him. But the whole conversation, even after that, it became, if you're not going to get him the protection that he needs, how's he going to be successful? And Burrow, just the way that he's been able to evade pressure this entire season, really just continue to step up. It's really proven that draft pick, 100% correct going after Chase. I don't think there's any question about that, but really the adversity that they faced, all season, the pressure, the old line that's been so bad, so many question marks regarding it, but Joe Burrow is just taking them to the next level.
I agree 100%. We'll do this. We'll talk Bengals in detail, and then we'll talk Rams in detail, and then give a full circle prediction. But while we're on the subject of the Bengals, I want to ask you guys this question. You bring up Jamar Chase. Uh, are they in the Super Bowl, or are they making a deep playoff run without the pick of Jamar Chase? If say they go out and they make the move for a lineman in the draft, I see you guys shaking your heads. No, I agree completely. I agree completely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you get a rookie receiver? I got a stats right here, just a quick couple ones. 81 receptions, 1,455 yards, and 13 touchdowns. That includes the playoff games. But even without the playoff games, I mean, outside of Justin Jefferson, I mean, we haven't seen. I mean, we're talking all pro level receivers
hmm
right out of the gate for these guys. Obviously, two LSU guys that play with Burrow, so obviously they have some connection there. Um, but no, I don't. I mean, they're a borderline probably playoff team without Chase. You're looking at a guy that changes the game, takes away the best corner, that also opens up the field for Higgins and Boyd to come across the middle and stuff like that. So you're losing your top corner, and the other guys are still facing great receivers, because we've seen Boyd in the past. He's been a number one player before,
hmm
and Higgins has obviously came on this year. So when your number three corner has to guard a guy that could potentially be a number one receiver on another team, that's something that to look at, especially in a matchup like this with Ramsey going to be out Chase.
Yeah, no question. With Chase, what he's brought to this offense and the way that he's been able to completely elevate them to that next level, there's no question that without Jamar Chase, there's no chance the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. What he's able to bring to this offense, if Joe Mixon got hurt, like Jamar Chase has a skill set where he could step into the backfield in sort of a Deebo Samuel type role, and he could still put up some production there as a running back. So he just brings a whole different style to your offense. And
hmm
when you look at the offensive line, because your question, if they would have drafted an offensive lineman, well, Joe Burrow's been able to evade pressure all season. So it's not like that's been a huge thing for him. But without Jamar Chase, this offense is not the same at all. It's not as explosive. You don't have to worry, like Cole said here, about your number one corner taking away that receiver. Now you have two other options there with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. But without Jamar Chase, Jalen Ramsey, he's just taking away that one. He's not bringing pressure onto the other guys there. So without Jamar Chase, there's no chance that the Bengals make the Super Bowl this year.
I agree 100%, and I think this brings up another key point, a key topic here about drafting best player available. I want to hear your guys' take on that, because going back and looking at that draft, you would argue every analyst was saying Joe Burrow needs the protection, but the Bengals went out and took the best player available. And now you can look back and you can argue Jamar Chase could have been the best player in that draft.
I'm not sure about best player. Micah's a stud.
Micah is a stud, and yeah, don't get me wrong, Mike is a stud. But even with that, like looking
Right.
back on Micah as well, like obviously it's the draft. You're not gonna never just be like, okay, that's the number one guy. He's gonna be the
Mhm.
best player for sure. But that's an argument right there because people talk about it all the time. Best draft and best player available, and I'm a key advocate for it because I personally think when you go out and you get the best player available, you're automatically adding and slotting in a guy that's going to have immediate production. Whereas if you draft, say, a lineman, which obviously in this situation it probably would have been a guy like Penei Sewell, who would
Mhm.
have got drafted by Cincinnati, which he had production this year with Detroit. He's a great offensive lineman. Rashawn Slater with the Chargers is another great offensive lineman. So they definitely would have had production, but none of them were capable of the production of what Jamar Chase has brought to the table. So what do you guys think about drafting best player available over team need?
Or I think it depends specifically on that team's need. I mean, if you're
Okay.
looking at Jacksonville, no question you're taking a quarterback there. You're
Yeah.
not taking a Micah Parsons or you're not taking a Jamar Chase. You got to get the quarterback right. So it really depends on the team specifically.
Hmm.
Um, but again, like with Dallas, like you said, Micah Parsons sliding all the way to where they were at 13. Looking back at that, that's completely crazy. So I definitely understand, like for some teams, and depending on where you're drafting at, taking the best player. But at times you have to look at what your team needs. If we need a quarterback, we need this or that. We got to focus on that. But again, it really depends where you're drafting at. What your team needs.
So before Cole dives into this one, since we're Cowboys fans, Nick, I want to ask you
Mhm.
this one. Let's revisit the draft. I know this is a little off topic, but revisit the draft with CD Lamb, who at the time, at that point in time, was probably around the best player available for us to select, and not necessarily was a big need for us at the time, having
Right.
Amari, having Gallup. So looking back on it, would you draft CD Lamb, the best player available, who obviously
Absolutely.
he's had production?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay,
Because I
okay.
mean, when you look at where they're drafting at, CD Lamb falling all the way to what we had that year,
I think it was
18.
17 or 18,
Was it
yeah.
17 or 18, something like that? But sliding all the way there, and you can make an argument he was the best receiver in the draft that year. So
Hmm.
again, I think it really depends on where you are, where you're drafting at, what your team needs. Because when you look at Dallas, I mean, who at that position that year were they really going to get that was going to have an impact on their team? That
I'd
was going to
say
have that big of an impact.
I'd say the only position personally would have been on the defensive side of the ball, DB or safety, which has not been addressed in years, especially at the
Right.
safety position. But
Yeah.
but yeah, not to stray off topic. Cole, what are you thinking about best player available over team need?
I really think I think it's more best player available than team need unless you're getting a cornerstone franchise guy. If you're in that top five, then you're looking at your franchise QB, your franchise
Yeah,
O tackle, um, and then your franchise edge rusher because that's obviously a position that's grown over the years. That
for sure.
you build your defense around an edge rusher, you build your offense around your quarterback. Um, but in special situations, like you're saying, like your Cowboys, they took the best player available, obviously worked out for them in a situation like now. But then even a situation like for my Bears, Fields falling down to 11.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously we made that trade with the Giants to get him, but it's just a weird. There's no real good answer for it because if you're early and there's somebody there that you really like, you're gonna take them even if they're not in the position that you need. So I think that's what Cincy did. I'm sure Burrow was like, let's get my guy
Yeah.
because I know what him and I can do, even though that offensive tackle is a bigger need. And also when you're a GM on a team like Cincy, you have a top pick, and even if you do have that top pick, you're probably looking for the next year. Like I'm possibly still going to have a top pick if we don't make any huge signings. So I'm sure the GM kind of looked at it a little bit into this year and saw that there was a decent amount of O linemen, actually a lot of great offensive tackles in this class that could have went early. And so if he's thinking maybe we'll have one more rebuilding year, get an O tackle next year, and then you have your two cornerstone guys. But I think with that connection with Chase and Burrow, I think that was like the big reason that they took it. So I don't know. It really depends on where you are in the draft, and if you have an aggressive GM and stuff like that. Because if you have an aggressive GM, you're going to trade up, and if you don't, then you're just going to kind of stick where you are and draft the best player available at the time. So
I agree. I agree 100%. So now that we kind of touched on that with the Jamar Chase Joe Burrow connection, which has led them to the Super Bowl, and we all agree that without it they wouldn't be there. What Bengals players are going to shine in this Super Bowl game?
I think we're going to look at it's going to be the receivers. It's got to be Tyler Boyd. It's got to be T. Higgins. They're the ones that are going to have to step up. If Jalen Ramsey, if he ultimately decides to go and cover, just Jamar Chase the whole game, well, then it's going to depend on those other guys making plays, because we know Jalen Ramsey can take a receiver out no matter who it is. He can just take them out of the game. He's that good. He ranked as the 5th best corner by PFF. All the rest of the Rams secondary players ranked outside of the top 70. So these receivers, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon out of the backfield. Obviously, they lost their tight end, so that's a big blow. But they're going to have to step up. Jamar Chase, he's going to get a few plays here or there, but consistently throughout the game, it's going to be T. Higgins. It's going to be Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I agree there. I think one thing that really needs to step up is Joe Mixon himself. We know the Rams pass rush is going to get there with Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald. We know they're going to get in the backfield, plus with Ramsey back there, and even a veteran like Leto back there as well, coming out of retirement and helping them out. I know, he's probably not in the best shape of his life, but I think with him coming in, that veteran presence, he's been in big situations before. Guys like that can always make big plays. But realistically, those other guys in the backfield for the Rams, those guys have to make plays because the pass rush is getting to Burrow. I mean, Burrow, the Bengals have given up 55 sacks this year, one of the worst in the NFL, as we all know. And I know Burrow has evaded those situations many, many times this year, because I'm sure that number could be pushing 70 easily for sacks.
No question.
But it's a tough situation. You can't let your quarterback get pressured every other play. And the Rams are going to be sending a lot of blitzes, because they know that their front four can get there easy. And then if you bring the little quicker guys in with the linebackers and even corner blitzes and stuff, make Burrow get out of the pocket and get somebody quicker on him, so he doesn't have as much time to throw the ball, even when he's trying to evade the pressure. So I think the Bengals have to almost look at the run a little bit and try to open up that pass game so they can't set as many blitzes. Because if Mixon gets going, it's gonna be tough, because it's tough to stop the run and the pass. And so if they get Mixon going, it's gonna open up some play actions for some crossing routes and some deep balls to Chase even.
I agree 100%. And you guys go offensive side of the ball. I honestly think some difference makers in this game might be Cincinnati's defensive backs here. And I say that because you talk about crossing routes and all that type of stuff. Odell coming to Los Angeles, that's really all they've utilized with him is crossing routes and dig routes. And it's been open, and Odell has been able to attack defenses, and then you add in Cooper Kupp. And even a guy like Van Jefferson, too, has stepped up with the loss of Robert Woods, who, I couldn't even imagine you add in Robert Woods to the way this passing offense is moving right now. I think it looks scary, very scary. But I think Cincinnati's defensive backs, guys like Chidobe Awuzie, who came over from Dallas, another guy like Eli Apple, who has been kind of a mystery throughout his career as to what he can truly do as a DB. I think guys like that are going to have to really step up big time and have to take away Cooper Kupp, take away the dig routes with Odell. And I think if they can do that, they can put Stafford in a sticky situation to force him to throw interceptions, because, like you mentioned at the beginning, Stafford hasn't been in this position. He hasn't been really in the playoffs much, other than this year. This is the deepest run he's ever made. And was this year the first year he's ever won a playoff game? Was it this year?
I think so.
I think it was, because I'm pretty sure the only other playoff game he was in, I guess, or that he had a chance to win, was against Dallas back in 2014 or 16, one of the years.
2014.
Yeah, I think it had to be. Yeah, okay.
It was 2014.
So if they put Stafford in a position, he might get a little frustrated and throw an interception here and there, but obviously it could go both ways with Joe Burrow. He doesn't have the experience either. We'll see. Go ahead.
You said, the secondary for both teams, that's going to be a huge piece of it. When you look at the Rams, offensively with Cooper Kupp, what you have to do is look to hold him to less than 125 yards. If you can do that, then the Rams are 7-5 in games. But when he goes over 125, that's when they're 8-0. So as defensively, like you said, the corners for Cincinnati, they're going to be huge. Obviously, they got to slow down Odell as well. Van Jefferson, he can bring that over the top. But then you look at Cincinnati as well. I mean, their corners, they're going to have to really show up with the Rams as well. Jalen Ramsey, what he can bring, we obviously know. But then outside of that, covering T. Higgins, covering Tyler Boyd, what are you going to be able to do with that? So secondaries for both teams. That's my key to this game. How are they going to fare?
I agree 100% with that. I think if whoever plays better defensively, obviously, is going to have a better chance to win this ball game. But the defensive back situation is definitely where it's going to come in and take over this game. Whereas who's going to throw more interceptions? What quarterback's going to make more mistakes because these DBs are hawking. And I think Cincinnati might have the edge in that category, just the way they've been playing. And I say that not because of star power, not because of experience. I say that just because of just simple, like not even swag, but in a way it's everything's on go right now for them. Everything is full go. And I think with the Rams, like towards the end of the regular season, into the playoffs a little bit, you saw a little slump with the Rams. So you've seen that they can be a little up and down. They can be a team that kind of steeps low, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, never mind, this team is legit. Whereas Cincinnati's red hot. And I think that's the most fascinating part of this game. But now let's dive into the Rams. Let's dive into the Rams players, talk a little bit about the Rams, key players we think are going to be successful in this game against the Bengals. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me,
Anyone can go ahead.
yeah, I'll go ahead. For me, I think the big key is Odell, really. We know Cooper
Okay.
Cup's going to get his yards. We know Cooper Cup's going to get his receptions because Stafford gets him the ball. Cooper Cup makes plays in space. But like you said about the records, 125 receiving yards, it's crazy that we're even looking at a stat that we're looking at a record under or over 125 receiving yards in a game, because not many times you think normally if a number one receiver has over 125, the offense is moving the ball, they're playing great, they're winning games. But like you said, just over 500 in games under 125 yards. So in a playoff game, obviously this year we've seen the playoff games are kind of going crazy, a lot of scoring and stuff outside the Packers 49ers game. So I think even if he gets at 125 plus yards, it's not going to be that clear cut winner like it has been, mainly because since he's going to do everything they can to shut down everybody else, and they're going to let one guy beat them if that's the case. If not, then guys like Odell have to step up. And I think one of the biggest underrated players in the league on offense, Tyler Higbee. The dude is an animal on the offensive side of the ball. He's so good in the red zone. He's so good in curl routes right up the middle, seam routes as well. And Stafford likes throwing that seam route down the middle of the field, so he's going to find Higbee a lot. And if those safeties and corners are so fed up with Cooper, Odell, Van, then you're going to see Tyler Higbee take advantage of the middle of the field and possibly some deep routes as well.
I look for the Rams, Matthew Stafford, Bryce, like you said, we haven't seen him in these scenarios very often. So at this point, what can we expect from Matthew Stafford? What we know from him is that he's very turnover prone, but he hasn't had that many turnovers here in this postseason. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. We've seen it so many times from him. Now, granted, it could be, because he was in Detroit, but I'm not sure we can blame everything on him being in Detroit. Turnovers, that comes back to what are you doing as a quarterback? And I don't really know what we can expect from Matthew Stafford because we haven't seen those turnovers yet so far. So I'm at the point where I'm questioning, is this something where he's moved past it? Are we just waiting for it? I can't really look past Matthew Stafford. I think he's still a huge question mark for this team.
Okay. I know for me personally, when the move was made for Stafford, like I know I talked to Gannon about it, and like the Rams were my team, I circled right away. I'm like, okay, this team could be legit because of Stafford. And I think it's 50-50 really on the blame Detroit, don't blame Detroit situation. Because, he had a guy like Megatron. Like, he had some quality teams around him, realistically. Obviously, some pretty bad teams, bad situations there, bad coaching staff. But him and McVay together, just the way they operate together, I think has a chance to be pretty smooth. But yeah, like the mistakes haven't happened yet in the postseason. So is this going to be the game where it happens? So I think like if Stafford is able to limit the turnovers in this game, and he throws a decent amount of yards, gets everyone involved. If they're taking away Cup and like you mentioned Cole with Higbee getting open, like that could be huge for them. But I personally think that this game could come down to Los Angeles running the football. And it sounds weird because you look at that team and you say they're going to pass, 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 pass. But getting a guy back like Cam Akers, who has ran the ball pretty effectively the last 1 or 2 games, he's ran the ball effectively. So to bring him back, it's really a mismatch in all categories just to think because no one's got film on this guy this year.
Right.
No one's known. He's really an unknown factor in this game. What could Cam Akers do? And it's going to come down to Cincinnati defensive line if they can stop him. But if they can't, that's just going to open the pass even more for Los Angeles. It's going to allow Matthew Stafford not to be as stressed out in the pocket because he's going to know he's got Cam Akers in his back pocket. So I think it comes down to Cincinnati's run defense as well. I think they're going to have to be able to stop Cam Akers. If not, he showed he can have a big game, a massive game in all reality. Which if he does, I don't think Cincinnati has a shot at winning this ball game because you look at that run pass and they're doing it all. But yeah, so I mean, personally, I think it comes down to Cam Akers with the Rams. Obviously, Stafford's going to have to perform. Like you said, Cooper Kupp's going to get the ball. No matter what, he's going to get the ball. They're going to find a way to get him the ball, whether it's in the backfield or through jet sweeps, whatever it is. But personally, now I think we could kind of dive into our ultimate predictions, our full circle predictions here and why. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to tell you right now, I think the Rams win this ball game. As much as I would love to see Cincinnati win, I mean, personally, I would. I would like to see the energetic Joe Burrow, the hype behind him, Jamar Chase, the energy's all there to be happy about Cincinnati winning this. I think it's all there, and I think a good majority of people across the world would like to see Cincinnati win, especially considering it's the game's in Los Angeles. This has now happened 2 years in a row where the home team is playing the Super Bowl at their home stadium, which is kind of fascinating in itself. But I do think I do personally think Stafford's going to have a ball game in this game, and I just personally think the Rams got the edge. Veteran experience in general, bringing in guys like Von Miller, Odell, guys that have just been in this league. Maybe not played in the big game other than Von, who's Super Bowl champ, but guys who have experience, guys who have seen other things, been with different teams, understand and grasp what it takes to win. I think that's where the Rams got the edge there. So I'm gonna pull with the Rams. I think the score will be in the 30s. Personally, I think it'll be a relatively, I'd call it a shootout, close to a shootout. I would say honestly. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mark it 35-31 Rams. Now you guys can go ahead. Let's hear it.
I'll take it. I'm going with the Bengals. The way that I look at it, the way that Joe Burrow's playing right now. I mean, when you look at the game on paper, the Rams are definitely a better team, but you can make that case for Kansas City, and they've beaten them twice in the past month. When I look at, I'm looking at Joe Burrow versus Matthew Stafford, because it's a huge part of it when it comes to a game like this, just one single game. How's your quarterback going to perform? And I don't think this year we've seen a better quarterback under pressure than Joe Burrow. And so that's where I lean with it. A lot of it comes back to Joe Burrow. And I understand defensively, there's no question that the Rams are a way better defensive team. But the way that Cincinnati's been playing recently, especially throughout these playoffs, they've been playing good. And I think that it'd be crazy to just throw that out the window and assume that they're going to go back to this team that they were throughout the regular season, where the defense doesn't show up as much.
Yeah.
But really, Joe Burrow, that's where it comes down to for me. And like you said, the public, they're probably going with the Bengals. Man, everybody's going with the Bengals. As a fan, you have to go with the Bengals. The confidence that they're playing with, especially Joe Burrow, you can't match it.
It's inspiring, really. It's inspiring
really
just to watch a guy like that come out and perform like that, especially after an injury. I think it's special.
Yeah,
but you can
no question.
go ahead and call.
Yeah, cool.
So my whole prediction is gonna lean towards the Rams. Obviously these two teams, they're before the season started, before the Matthew Stafford pickup, we didn't really know what either of these teams were going to be. We obviously knew some of the players on the Rams. They got some great veterans. They're always a solid team. They're battling in the NFC West. But at the beginning of the year, before the season started, everybody was looking at the Cardinals to win the West. 49ers to play great defense and hold some teams down, which the 49ers ended up picking it up at the end of the year and making the playoffs and then upsetting the Packers. But I think that's another thing is playing those teams on a consistent basis for the Rams. I think it really sets them up, especially playing a team like the 49ers, because when you get in the postseason, you're more looking at a defensive game. And so I think Matt Stafford playing a defense like that twice a year, I think it really gets them ready for these type of games. But like this year, like you said, we haven't seen Matt Stafford many times turn the ball over. He only has 17 picks this year. Burrow has 14. Stafford's 41 touchdowns. Burrow 34. Obviously, Burrow's playing a lot better at the end of the year than he started the year. And Stafford's kind of just been even keel all year. But I just think because of the defensive backs and because of the pressure that the D-line can get, I'm going to go with the Rams. Because, like you said, you got Von Miller coming off the edge. You got Aaron Donald coming from any direction, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then just with Ramsey going to be on Chase, it's going to knock down one receiver mainly. Obviously, the same situation with Cooper Kupp. They're going to have probably going to be doubling him with Jesse Bates over the top.
Yeah.
And so one guy that's kind of, been on social media, been kind of talking a lot is Eli Apple. Which is kind of weird to say because Eli Apple, he was a giant. Nobody liked him. He was on the Saints getting burnt as well. And I just wrote down a couple of things about Eli Apple. He's got a 61 PFF grade. He's 67th in tackles for corners. He has 2 picks, 66 targets and 39 receptions allowed. This is all his rankings, not the exact stats. So he's not one of those elite lockdown corners. He's just, he's playing well right now because the defense itself is playing pretty solid ball. So he's just kind of, getting good looks and stuff like that. But when you look at a guy like Ramsey on the other side of the ball, when he's going to be on Chase, he's top 8 in tackles for corners. He's top 8 in picks. He gets a ton of targets, but he doesn't allow many receptions because he's such a lockdown corner. And he has an 84.5 PFF grade. So I think with the DBs and the quarterback play is going to determine this game the most. And I'm going to go with Stafford just because he does have more experience and not because obviously he hasn't played many playoff games at all, but just because he's been in the league a lot longer. He knows a lot of these guys. He knows their tendencies and stuff like that. And then I just think overall, I would slightly take the Rams receiving core and backfield over the Bengals, and obviously the offensive line by a mile. So I just think that would be the biggest concern for the Bengals is making sure that Burrow can stay on his feet and not on the ground many times, which against a team like the Rams, they're going to get him on the ground. So I'm going to lean towards the Rams. I've been saying that since they got Stafford. Watch out for him, just like you were, Bryce. And I mean, they kind of fell off where you were like, oh, this team might not actually have it. And that's where everybody was like, is Matt Stafford the guy? But then here he is, playing great in the playoffs, looking phenomenal, and he's got the offense rolling as well. So I'm going to take the Rams for sure. I'd love to see a Burrow do it off an injury and just because nobody thought they were going to do it. But being a Bears fan, seeing Matt Stafford suffer in the NFC North at the Lions, I just think it'd be best for him to win one before his end of his career.
For sure.
I hear what you're saying about the Rams secondary and what they're able to bring to it, especially with Ramsey just canceling out Jamar Chase or whoever he ends up, if they decide to go, a Patriots way. That's the last time I can remember you put your best corner on the number 2 and then you double the number 1. But I expect Ramsey to follow Chase. But the reason I can't get behind that is because it's not like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. They're not some good receivers. No, these are some good dudes. So they can still go out there and make some plays. And it's not like the rest of the Rams secondary is very elite. They're not. They rank outside of the top 70 by PFF. And so it's not like if you're just taking out Jamar Chase, all these other guys are not going to do their thing. You've got Tyler Boyd. You've got T. Higgins. They have the ability. We've seen it throughout the year to go out there and make plays for themselves and really get themselves open, make things happen for this Bengals offense.
I do agree. And even Mixon can be a threat out of the backfield too, with the passing game as well. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But you guys have any final thoughts on this before we wrap this one up?
Watch out for Joe Burrow. They're going to get pressure on him, but he's going to evade it. He's going to get out of the pocket. That's where he's most dangerous on the run. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be special.
It is definitely going to be fun to watch. Cole, you got anything left? Any last words?
The only thing I gotta say is I hope the Bengals O-line can keep him up, because if they can't, then it's gonna be a long game for him in the offense. But if they can keep him on his feet, this could be a shootout, and it's gonna be a fun game to watch for sure. I think this is gonna be one of the most watched Super Bowls, one of the higher rated ones, because of the Stafford versus Burrow QB competition we got here. And I think just solely based on that, I think this alone is one of the most hyped Super Bowls. I'm not even a fan of either of these teams, but I'm more hyped to watch this Super Bowl than I ever have been.
I mean, compared to recent ones, like you've got Mahomes in close to the Super Bowl, at least in the past 4 years here. So I love Mahomes, but it's nice to see somebody else out there.
It is most definitely nice to see someone else out there. And like you said, like the Burrow, Stafford, I just think the overall energy of this game, just the atmosphere, the understanding, like it's in LA, it's all hip. It's going to be a great game. People are going to tune in for this game. I'm excited for it. You guys are excited for it. And I hope our viewers are excited for it as well. But I just want to give a quick shout out to Cole, Nick. Thank you guys for hopping on here with me. It means a lot. I'm glad you guys had the opportunity to come on here and speak some football. We'll definitely have to do this again when Gannon's back. Talk some more off-season football, maybe throw in some mock drafts, and just have fun with football. I know we all love the game here, but I do just want to say thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, Bryce. Thank you.
Until next week, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and tune back in for episode 67, where we'll be interviewing Michael Barentes, hearing his story from UW Whitewater football, where I'm currently a student at. So make sure to come back, check that one out next week. Hope you enjoyed this one.